I was supposed to have surgery today. I had an IV. See, I still got this. I had an IV in, and they was pumping me full of like the anesthesia and everything. They're like, "Oh, our nurse just left, so now we have to do it tomorrow instead." I'm having a biopsy in my like in my esophagus and stuff because I think I have ulcers. Yeah. So they already started pumping me full of shit, and they're like, "Oh, we just realized we don't have enough nurses to do your surgery today." And the thing is,
Cambridge?
yeah,
Yeah, no wonder.
and it was supposed to be noon, and they called me at like 11:50, and they're like, "Hey, so we had an emergency today, and we're not gonna be able to have your surgery until sometime today." And they're like, "Just call us back and we'll talk." I was like, "Okay." So I called back. They're like, "Well, we don't know exactly what time. We'll just let you know." And then I called them at like 3, and they're like, "Oh yeah, if you come in like the next 5 minutes, we can get you started." So I fucking rushed up there, and then got all hooked up IV, and then they're like, "Oh, we just realized we don't have enough nurses." Dude, it's been a shit show all day,
Cambridge isn't.
and I couldn't eat or drink,
Oh, that sucks.
so I didn't eat or drink since yesterday lunch.
Oh my god.
So now today I got to eat lunch. After lunch, it was like 5 o'clock, and then I can't eat again because tomorrow, yeah.
It's not like they're getting a discount yet, all or pay your
No, they gave
deductible.
me a $20 cup gift card. So I was like, "Oh, that's kind of nice," but it's like, it's a nice gesture, you know. It's like they couldn't because they didn't have to do anything, and I didn't complain though because I was like, well, if he's having that bad of a day where he wasn't sure if he's gonna get me in or not, like I'm not rather not go in on him a doctor having a bad day, you know, like that's a big risk.
That sucks. They're worried
Yeah.
about cancer?
Oh no, ulcers.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, that's better.
Well, it could be cancer, but I think it's ulcers. Yeah. I've been under extreme stress, so
Me too. Way too fucking much lately. This week's
I'm
like
letting
a
it.
2 week vacation.
Yeah. I had that, which was nice, but and my stress is coming out, you know. So it's like
So which one of those two are the
I think the one on the left, black T-shirt.
Yep.
Yep. All right, let's go ahead and call this meeting of the Isani City Council to order. If we can all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Doing a roll call, we have all council members present. Do we have any public comment this evening? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion to adopt the agenda.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
I have a motion to adopt from Councilman Lundin and a second from Councilman Holmgren. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Moving on to our city council meeting minutes, we've got the meeting minutes from June 18th, and we've got the committee of the whole meeting minutes also from June 18th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion to approve from Councilman Lundin and a second from Councilman Heeman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. For announcements, we've got our committee of the whole meeting coming up on Tuesday, July 16th at 5 p.m. We've got our planning commission meeting on the 16th as well at 6 p.m. We've got our city council meeting on the 16th at 7 p.m. And we have our city council budget work session also on the 16th that'll immediately follow the regular 7 p.m. city council meeting. And we have our Park and Rec board meeting on Tuesday, July 23rd at 6 p.m. Do we have any council committee reports?
I went to the LMC conference. I need to get my notes together a little more. We had that little technical difficulty this afternoon, so I couldn't get those done. But I thought it was an okay event. I think it'd be good for maybe one of us to go, a new member every year, just to kind of see how it is. I don't know that it's worth it for me to go back, but I can come back with some highlights from that. The biggest thing that kind of caught my eye was one of the workshops was on the opioid settlement, and the County of Isani has allocated some money, but they haven't really capitalized on that. They've only used $4,000 of a huge pool of money. To give you a simple comparison, the city of Minneapolis is getting almost $2 per resident, so $2.5 million out of that, and the County of Isani has gotten less than 10 cents per resident, around $4,000. So I'm gonna dig into that and see who at the county does that, and if there's anything that the city can do to help with that opioid crisis and maybe collecting some of that money from that settlement, which is not taxpayer money. It's from Big Pharma, so that's something that I gotta look into, and then I'll have some other notes from the other workshops that I attended. That's just one I remembered off the top of my head, so.
Awesome, that sounds great. Any other any other council committee reports?
Fire department's rodeo's coming up, which I'm sure you're all aware of, and they would greatly like to see the support from the community. Everything's going fairly smooth with the fire district as planned. Runs are down, way down this last month, which is huge. So, I apologize, I don't have the run count with me, so. But, no, that's it.
All right. Any other council committee reports? We're still waiting to hear back, right, Mike, on that BMX question?
Yeah, right now I have a partial answer. How about that?
Okay, all right, sounds good. So, soon. All right, and then, yeah, let's go ahead and we'll move on to our first business item is K1, the ordinance to consider amending zoning code, chapter 445, section 15, fencing, screening, and landscaping.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As has been discussed now at the Planning Commission and at the Committee of the Whole, we have some adjustments to the zoning ordinance, Chapter 445, fencing, screening, and landscaping. We did discuss this further with the city attorney just to make sure that we were either taking ourselves out of the equation or not able to do that, and we did get some clarification on that. So the changes you see are after we spoke with him regarding what we could do and what he recommended. So if you have any further questions.
So, Mayor and Council, I'll just add to that. So it was discussed at Plan Commission to remove the language of having written permission. The attorney did recommend to keep that language in there, however, we won't require it. It puts the onus on the property owner putting up the fence. He said that it is in their best interest to have it in written form, because if there does end up being a civil dispute between neighbors, if they only had a verbal agreement from their neighbor to put it on the line, that will not hold up in court. So it's in the best interest of the person filling out the permit to get the fence installed. So we did put that language back in. We also realized that we didn't have any language in there to include connecting. So if a neighbor or a property owner had a fence all around their property and the neighbor next to them just wanted to attach, so they didn't have that strip of grass to mow of a foot or whatever in between, we now have language to allow for connection.
Yeah, I thought it looked real good. I mean, the goal is basically to say, okay, we want to get the city out of disputes between neighbors and property lines, and we didn't want to have to, we were having so many issues with it, you were wanting to potentially do surveying and stuff like that, which would have added costs. And I think this gets our hands free of it and just leaves it up to neighbors to work out amongst themselves. So I'm all for it. So.
I would like to add one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
If we do end up having a dispute between property owners about a fence, and they're claiming that the fence is on their property, unauthorized, the steps that the city would take would be for someone, it could be the person who put the fence up, or it could be a possible neighbor who's disputing that the fence is located on that owner's property. They could submit proof of that to the city in the form of they paid for a survey on their own. That would be the only time that the city would get involved to say, okay, you have now proven that it is on your property and it should be on the property owner who owns, who's putting the fence up. So there would be times that we may get involved, but it is on them to supply us with those facts, if they so choose.
Sounds good. Any other comments on that?
I'll motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion to approve from Councilman Merrill and a second from Councilman Heeman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
And, sorry, finish.
Yep.
We actually cannot approve it this evening. This will go on the next city council meeting because it needs to be posted for the 10 days and it has not met that requirement.
Okay,
So I'm
gotcha.
sorry that was-
Yeah, sorry, I
Oh.
meant to say that. We
Sorry.
made the changes after we had posted it,
Okay.
so that is.
Well, it
why.
looks good. It looks good the way it is. We're satisfied with it, so next time come around and we'll get it taken care of then, so.
Thank
All right, so we'll move on to K2, the resolution to consider, to authorize purchase of the Motorola body camera system.
All right, Mayor and Council, I know we've talked about our body camera system issues in the past, and what's came up recently, two things, our server that we currently have is too small and the backup system does not work, so we looked at those quotes for that, and to upgrade the server to have enough storage as well as the virtual storage backup, because we have to back it up if it's not locally, and I think the last quotes we had were with the discount, 21 to 25,000 a year, just for that piece. We have our 2 new squads that we need to order cameras for, so that's kind of debating on what we're gonna do. So currently we're running WatchGuard body cameras that are interfaced with in-car cameras. They're linked together, they're 2 different pieces of hardware. So what the proposals do is to upgrade to the new Motorola version of body camera. It'll still work with the old in-car cameras, but we can upgrade the, whatever we purchase new squads in cars to a newer model. Those cameras we have now, I think we have 12 with 6 or 7 that are operational. So the proposal here is looking at their cloud storage base versus our server with the backup. Because even if we're having our own server, we realized we're spending $25,000 a year to store it somewhere else as a backup. Where if we're paying that same fee to the actual storage, now we don't need to back it up because they're the ones that are doing that. So that's what this quote, we got a quote for both on-premise storage as well as their virtual one. The on-premise one was around $40,000 cheaper over a 5-year period. But then you have to conclude that $20,000 backup fee over those 5 years. So the $40,000 is now $60,000 more expensive to store it at our facility. So we think this is the best option because we looked at other vendors, but we'd have to switch out both the body camera and the squad camera system. At the end of this 5-year period, we own the equipment, and then it would drop down to, in today's dollars, at $20,000 a year is what the licensing fee, which is I think $8,000, $13,000 is a storage fee. So we got to look at it, break that down over a 5-year period is what it costs per year, and that's just the operating cost of having a system. No matter what vendor we go through, it's going to cost that, $2,000 per officer per year.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta have it. It's,
Unfortunately,
yeah.
Unfortunately, Motorola knows that too, so,
Yeah,
and all
well-
these companies know it. I've said it since day one, they really, you have to have it, but they take advantage of municipalities so bad with this stuff.
So do we currently pay backup fees?
yeah, we do currently pay backup fees, and it's, I don't, Ms. Wood, you might know how that, we're on a different backup system, but it's not a virtual server, so the problem we have is when the server goes down, we don't have access, it's just data that's stored on that, and we're still paying that fee. But we have no access to it, and we can't use our system.
Correct. Also, I'll add, the current system that we have doesn't have disaster recovery or have the ability to do cybersecurity because it is an on-premise. The reason why Chief is bringing this forward is because we are nearing the capacity of that device. So we need to act quickly on moving to this next step. And this is the best option, is to go with that cloud-based version instead of on-premise.
Sure. Do you have an idea what the difference is? I mean, I'm just wondering how much more we'd add into our budget each year for the cost, because that's an ongoing cost.
As far
If
as-
there's a difference, let's say right now you're paying $7,000.
Right now, it's $21,000 a year with a $4,000 hardware startup plus around a $9,000 server. So we have about $14,000, $15,000 upfront and $21,000 a year for 3 years. That's the 3-year price for $21,000 a year. That would be for a backup for our system right now.
Okay.
And this is being bought out of the public safety aid money though, too.
Correct,
so,
and I don't have
yeah.
the year that it's actually in that CIP plan. I don't have that.
I think it was
I can probably look
2028.
it up, I do have
maybe?
that, if we're curious
Is
about
that-
that.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I think 28 is right. But,
It's in that range.
I think it's,
feel like-
I'm pretty
I feel
sure
like
it's
we bought
20.
all our cameras in 2018, and
It was
I think
on.
we had set the useful life at 10 years, so that would,
2031
It was, okay, all right,
2031.
all right, well, I was wrong.
at 114,000.
Yeah. That's what we had in the
In
plan, yeah.
plan,
But, but yeah, I mean, if your stuff's not working now, I mean, you get, what'd you say, six or seven out of 12 is,
Yeah, and
Well-
because they're piecemealing what they have, they're not
Yeah.
manufacturing them.
yeah, we don't want, yeah. Yeah, you need that to work every time, so,
But it sounds like in the long run, it's gonna still be cheaper when we go to this than what we're doing right now anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Depending on where their technology goes, I mean, when you do the cloud base, you buy into their little package per se. So at year 3, they upgrade the cameras to their new version. But at the end of 5 years, you own the hardware.
how long do you think it'll last past the 5 years?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, who knows? I mean,
Good selling point.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, from a budgetary standpoint, you know, we gotta look at what that 5-year, you know, the $140,000 over 5 years, figure that's the annual cost to have body camera system. If we can push it longer, great, but I think that's kind of in the technology realm, that's the cost of doing business in that field.
Sounds good.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion to approve from Councilman Lundin and a second from Councilman Heeman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Thanks, Travis. Moving on to the consent agenda. Any questions there?
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion to approve the consent agenda from Councilman Lundin and a second from Councilman Holmgren. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Anything
Motion to
else?
adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion to adjourn from Councilman Merrill and a second from Councilman Lundin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. We are adjourned.
That's the shortest meeting ever.